You have one chance to live.
Look, man, take anything you want.
Thank you.
Take anything!
Now you're gonna tell me where to find the rest of Tintin's little party pals.
The pit. They all hang out at the pit. Little T-Birds, little potato heads hang out there. Fun Boy, he lives there upstairs, all right?
Fun boy.
A whole jolly club. Jolly pirate Nick.
Hey everyone, welcome to Picture This Film Reviews. We are going over our superhero category this week, and I am your host, Cayla. This is
Dan.
And I'm Matt. Hey.
We will be reviewing the film. I don't even know if you can call it a superhero film. He's kind of like a vigilante Avenger type dude, but we're going to fit him in the superhero category. So we are going to be reviewing The Crow that came out, I believe, was it 1990?
94.
Yes, 1994. That has the late Brandon Lee in it. But this is going to wrap up our superhero category. If you are unfamiliar with us, we change it up. We spin a little wheel and we pick a different category about every 3 or 4 weeks. But we are just going to start off, I think, this episode with asking everybody how they are. But I'm going to ask Matt, how have you been the past week, Matt?
I've been okay. Still got a lot of free time on my hands, as mentioned last week. Working on fixing that though, but no solid leads. But that's not true. I got a couple solid leads. I got a couple in the pipeline. We'll see what happens. But I'm doing okay. I didn't really watch anything particular other than just old stuff that, nothing worth noting. But I've been okay. How are you guys?
Doing really good, man. We've been pretty busy this week, as I'm sure if any of you can tell. I know if you watched the last video, you knew we were doing a little bit of redecorating in a room. We've been thrifting, we've been antiquing, we've been painting, we've been adding all kinds of things. We bought a new microphone so we could have a little better performance audio for you guys. So it's been an eventful week. I'm really excited to be here. So Cayla, I guess I'll end up with you. How are you doing?
I'm good. We, like you, Matt, we really haven't watched anything besides the movie pick this week. We watched some TV, but that's like the normal stuff that comes on every week that we catch up on. Yeah, I mean, our wall is a different color, so that's great. And it actually makes it look a little bit brighter in here. So that's been very nice. But I guess that kind of wraps up our little chit chat. We'll get into the review.
I did go to Virginia. I forgot to mention.
Oh.
I did take a Virginia trip, and shout out to Tyler and Haley. I went to a gender reveal party for one of my best friends, and they're having a little baby girl. So shout out to them.
Yes, congratulations to you both, and a happy, healthy family. If you do watch this, congrats. Can you click out of it? Thank you. So we will be going over the stats for this movie, and that will be handled by the wonderful Mr. Dan Lane right over here.
All right, guys. So awesome to be with you today talking about The Crow, which, as introduced by Cayla, is a 1994 American superhero film directed by Alex Proyas. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Written by David J. Shaw and John Shirley. Stars Brandon Lee in his final film appearance as Eric Draven, a murdered musician who's resurrected to avenge his death and that of his fiancée. The film is based on James O'Bare's comic of the same name. As far as our star-studded cast, which there were many, Brandon Lee, again, previously mentioned, Michael Wincott, Rochelle Davis, Ernie Hudson played a very big part in this, Bei Ling, and a few others as well. When we're talking about the stats as far as how much this movie did and how it did in the box office, the budget was estimated $23 million. Opening weekend, we did about $11 million, and we grossed $50,693,000 gross in the U.S. and Canada. Worldwide, not much more than that. Has a runtime of about 1 hour and 42 minutes. So, Matt, where does that put it on your bathroom scale?
This one was doable. This was a very comfortable viewing, and there was no bladder issues for this one.
Well, that is always a plus to hear. Just to wrap this up and kick it back over to my host, the ratings on this, we had a 7.5 out of 10 on IMDb, 84% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 71% on Metacritic. This was a content rating of R, so might not be appropriate for the kiddos, but kicking it back over to our host.
Okay. Well, I will start off this review with saying that I've never seen this film. So it wasn't picked because it was like a superhero that I liked or what have you. I picked it because I wanted to find something that, you know, really when we're talking about superheroes or anything in that category doesn't come up that often. Besides this being kind of like a cult classic. And my overall general consensus that I will say about this film is if there ever was a 90s film wrapped up in one, this is what this film would be. It had 90s written all over it, and that's not a bad thing, because it made me feel very nostalgic. Obviously, all of us grew up in the 90s, so this is like this was feeling like, wow, I'm back hanging with my mom. We're wearing some freaking clog sandals, you know, all this type of stuff. But I think that's why I liked it so much, is because it felt so nostalgic and it had that grungy 90s pop, not pop, punk rock kind of vibe going on. And the music was fantastic in this. I was like, dang, this is a good soundtrack. And I feel like I haven't really said that often. I don't think I've said it at all this season. Each season I try to really take into consideration the music that they're playing during films. And this all the music that they played fit perfectly into each scene. And I felt like the actors really brought it too, for the grunginess that it needed, because this is a very grungy type of movie. And I want to say Brandon Lee, and okay, I don't want to use that. Brandon Lee really did justice to this character. I obviously was not familiar with Eric Draven before, but I mean, what a cool idea for him to come back and kind of like avenge his death and his fiance's death, and taking all of these dudes, killing them one by one, which was nice. And The Crow too. I mean, I don't really know what else to say besides that it was really well done. And it's unfortunate, and I don't know if anybody else will get into this. It's unfortunate the circumstances of which what happened with this movie, and I'm wondering if it would have had that much success or what have you, a cult following, if these things didn't happen. But aside from that, when you think about, if you try to like not think about the tragedy of it, it is aesthetically very pleasing. I really liked it. I will watch this again. I can picture myself watching this again. It's not a very long movie, so it kind of goes considerably fast. And I think it's a little disappointing because when you think about actors who have passed way too soon, I feel like Brandon Lee had a lot of potential, especially after this. I feel like this would have been his probably breakout role and would have like just sprung him right into superstardom. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I will watch it again. It kind of feels like a Halloween movie. So it kind of is a Halloween movie. It ties into these Halloween spooky months that we're going into. So it kind of fit perfectly, I think. So whoever wants to take the floor.
Sure. Getting into this, I just want to reiterate what Cayla was kind of alluding to. And I feel like it's the elephant in the room with this film. Anytime you talk about the Crow, you're no doubt going to talk about the tragedy that kind of enveloped the film with the death of Brandon Lee. With that being said, behind the scenes, there was a lot going on with this movie after he had passed. They had actually stopped filming production of this film altogether. The director actually had formed a very close relationship with Brandon Lee and thought that it was like taking blood money for working on this any further. But it was actually at the urging of Brandon Lee's fiance and his mother that they actually completed this film and then put it to theaters. And I believe all the money that the director took for this, he had got enough to get his mother a new car. He bought himself some stereo equipment or surround sound equipment, and then he donated the rest to charity. Again, because he just felt like it was taking blood money over the death of his, what he would call a friend. Um, so with that being stated, there are some pieces of this film they had to go back, reshoot, refilm. There were some changes that they had made. There was one big one, I guess, in the comics. He has a guide called Skull Boy that was a major plot device for this, which was kind of his guide in the afterlife. That filming, unfortunately, that character did not or was not completed, so it was scrapped entirely. Another part of that, the director said that it kind of felt cheesy, especially after the fact, but towards the end scenes of this where you have we see the Raven getting shot, and then Brandon Lee's character Draven loses his powers completely. This was actually supposed to be Skullboy basically taking the powers away from Draven because his mission on Earth was done after he ended up killing all the folks that were involved with his and his fiance's murder, and then he decides to go after the top dog, the main big bad of the story, so to speak. But Brandon Lee had a lot of impact on this film. Another big point to this is there was the main villain was actually supposed to be an Asian gentleman who wanted to steal Draven's powers for himself, basically immortality, being invincible. They Brandon Lee himself said that at the time when the character was pitched to him, that was a very stereotypical take on an Asian character. So they removed that character completely and then kind of gave some elements of that to the girlfriend toward the end of the movie of the main big bad. And also his take on the makeup, which to me, this movie, the one thing that kind of most iconic is just the makeup that he wears. And when he first put it on, he was talking to the director about how it looks. It was fresh makeup. Neither one of them liked it. It was inspired by a mask they had seen in a play on, I think it was in France, but he didn't like it. So Brandon Lee was like, hey, you know what? It would look so much better if it was like worn or slept in. And from what I was reading or understood it to be, that's exactly what he did. He slept in the makeup. He came back the following day for filming, and it's like worn into his face. It's not fresh. It's not new. And to me, like that look just is so iconic. And when they portray the streets, I see corruption and crime, and I'm like thrown back to Gotham City. And not only that, but movies that are closer to our time. One in particular, and we found out after the fact looking into this, Heath Ledger's Joker looks so much like this character. I was like, man, it'd be interesting to think if he took some of that, or the makeup team took some of that to make that character as well. And apparently they did. Yeah. They found inspiration in that. And it's amazing that the tragedy of those two stars is kind of linked in that way as well. But as far as what Cayla said, I 100% agree. I think Brandon Lee, if he had lived, would have definitely continued to be a rising star. I know that he had talked to the director about the possibility of a sequel or The Crow 2, which never came to be. And now they're talking reboot with Alexander Skarsgård.
No, Bill.
Bill Skarsgård. I'm so sorry. Bill Skarsgård. See, I get the name screwed up all the time.
It's okay, they're brothers.
Which I don't really know how I feel about it. It's a different time. I know we're just in this film industry right now where we like to recycle ideas that have already been used and then play them out to death. I think this is one that could probably be left in the books. Overall, we're supposed to give you a rating. Could I picture myself seeing this again? Could I picture throwing this in the trash? I think just for what it is what will always be Brandon Lee's high point in his work. And it's a shame because I would have loved to see more, but I could definitely see a picture of myself seeing this again. And I hope you enjoyed the watch. I did. And Matt, curious on your thoughts on this.
Okay. So I had watched this only once before, years ago. And I think it was out of curiosity that I watched it. Because the myth and everything, not the myth, but you know, the happenings around it, that I watched it, and I remember thinking then it was okay. Uh, I didn't really care for it. Like it wasn't something that I would necessarily watch again. Um, Going into it this time, it had been long enough that I was excited. I don't know if you can see my reaction on Thursday's Shadow episode. When Cayla announced this, I was excited genuinely because it has been probably at least 10 years or more since I've watched this. Um, so I was ready to get into it, and I watched it this time with a whole new, fresh set of eyes. I like to call the adult eyes. I feel like I had a different lens in my 20s and teens than I have now, and things that I watch now that I used to watch then, I see in a totally different light. I love this movie. I loved it way more than I was anticipating. It was very grungy, which I dug. It did remind me of the 90s, like Cayla said. Um, Ironically, this came out in 94. I know it was shot primarily in 93, but then again, I guess so was. I was trying to make the comparison. It's funny to see how you can look at two different movies from the same year. We just reviewed The Shadow in 1994, which was also filmed in 93, and then The Crow, which was filmed in 93 and came out in 94. And they're almost two totally different movies. They have similar 90s things going on, but for the most part, you wouldn't even know that they came out the same year. Um, so I made that note. As Dan was talking about the paint, the legacy, I think that is the legacy of this movie, is that iconic paint makeup. Um, and of course, you almost can't. I mean, I guess you could if you know nothing about it, but uh, it would be it would be wrong not to mention that the effect this has had on pop culture, especially primarily in wrestling. The veteran Hall of Famer Sting uh, was a surfer, bleach blonde, always painted his face, but usually pink and blue and yellow and things like that. And that character was getting very stale in the 90s. And it was actually the late Scott Hall that recommended to Sting, hey, have you seen the movie The Crow? And Sting said no. He said, watch this movie. I think you should change your character to be like this character. And Sting watched The Crow, and they developed this year-long storyline, wrestling storyline, that Sting was going to go off camera, grow his hair out, dye it black, paint his face, and came back a year later as the Crow. It was long-term storytelling, and to this day, over 30 years later, when you go to conventions or Comic Cons and see Sting, meet and greet Sting, he doesn't look like Surfer Sting. He looks like the Crow. He is still using the Crow makeup, and that's just a testament to this movie. I thought Rochelle Davis as Sarah was perfect. I wish we had seen more of her character. I like the dynamic between her and Brandon Lee. I wish we could have gotten more of that. Um, I thought it was stylistic, dark visuals. The director did a fantastic job. Um, and then, as mentioned, Brandon Lee could have easily become a huge star if not for his passing. Which again, ironic and not ironically, but we just covered a movie with Alec Baldwin. Fast forward all these years later, or all these years beforehand, I guess rather, a very similar incident happened with this. Although this was a prop bullet instead of what's currently going on, but it's still tragic nonetheless, and untimely, and what could have been. I don't think Brandon Lee did too many films in his career, but this definitely was his biggest and could have been his breakout. Well, I think even though it is his breakout film, just there is no more to continue that story, unfortunately. Um, Only other note that I made was I wish the girlfriend. I don't know why. Maybe I'm thinking of one of the straight to video sequels, but I thought for some reason we got more of a backstory between Draven and the girlfriend Shelly. But I guess maybe I made that up in my head, or like I said, it was in a different sequel. But I wish we had seen more of the Shelly character and more of that background versus just a brief flashback here and there. I feel like we could have gotten more in tune with why he's doing this. I could have felt. I mean, I totally love the movie, but I felt like I could have been more emotionally connected to why he's killing these people if I had gotten a little bit more of a picture of their life together. That was really only my disgruntlement with it, and it's not even a big disgruntle. So overall, I definitely picture myself watching this again. I went and bought it on my Vudu account, just because I liked it so much, and yeah, so I picture this 100% being a classic for years and years to come.
So I'm going to put a little bit of a spin on this because there were some other style choices on this film, and I'm just kind of curious. If I ask you, I'm going to ask you probably like 3 questions, and it'll be picture this questions. Do you picture this, working out in this film, or do you think that it's better the way it is? So my first question is, the director originally wanted to view or film this in black and white. It's monochromatic. The comic series that this is based on is originally done in black and white. So think Sin City, what Sin City did years later. However, when they did the flashback scenes, specifically in the apartment with the girlfriend, it would have been in color just to have created more of a, I guess, a difference between, the real, what was happening in the moment versus what happened in the past. So could you picture that being an aspect of the film that would have worked, or do you think it's better the way it was?
Are you asking both of us?
Oh, yeah.
You can go if you want to, then.
I think it would have worked, but I don't think it would have been as effective. And usually I'm for black and white. I don't know. I'd have to see it. It's hard to say. Like I don't know. Maybe there is, but I wish there was like a black and white cut of it because I would be willing to watch it. But I almost think the way it is more effective.
I too would have liked to see it in black and white just to get a glimpse of what that could have been. The color palette of it was already like muted tones anyway, and you had the flashbacks and like some significant things like the car that he ends up crashing or what have you, where you have these pops of color. And I think they're trying to tell you that these things are significant to the storyline. But I mean, I don't feel like it would have necessarily changed it as much as it is now, because it's already so muted and the colors are already so dark and grungy, and like it's meant to be like that. So black and white I feel like would have been good, but I feel like as it is now, I think they did the right thing with the way they filmed it.
Okay. My next question was, I know we talked a little bit about earlier where Brandon Lee had made the suggestion that the character that wanted to steal his powers was removed. Had we replaced the main big bad that we get at the end, which to me honestly resembled more of like a vampire-esque type
Yes.
individual anyway, do you think that would have fit more with the plot line of the story? Do you think it was fine the way it was?
The way it was, I think it was a smart choice taken out.
Yes, I think you have enough kind of like mystic supernatural things when you have this guy that comes back from the dead. And in this story itself, not saying the comics, but in the movie itself, you don't really get that backstory of like why he's coming back, how he's coming back, how he got these power, how he's undead. So I feel like that kind of would have made it way too supernatural and way too out there to be like, oh, this vigilante or this Avenger dude is just coming back to kill him. So I feel like keeping that out of there was the right decision. You had this guy who, was the big boss dude who they ultimately meet up and he's killing one by one. So I feel like that was the right choice I mean, even though you're saying you're disgruntled with the not having much backstory between Shelley, I didn't really care for the big bad dude too much. That was my big thing with it, but I think for the overall storytelling, this was the right way to go, and not to drag it on and go back and forth between something that's obviously not necessary.
Okay. And then my final picture this in what you guys are talking about is more so the relationship between Draven and his girlfriend. Mine takes a little bit of a different look on this via the comic books. Something I discussed with Cayla earlier. With the comics, you had a telepathic connection between Draven and the crow that he was with. specifically not just glimpses of where people were, but they actually had a telepathic communication between the two of them where they could communicate. Do you think that how it was executed in the movie was done well, or could you picture this being a little different and actually hearing some dialogue between the Raven or the Crow rather and the main character?
Yeah, see, I mean, while the idea of that sounds okay, I think it would just come off cheesy, especially in '94. I don't think it would be done correctly. Now, maybe today, like they're rebooting it or remaking it, maybe then I think we are going to get, and I don't know this for a fact, I'm just assuming. I think we are going to get probably more of a backstory of him and his girlfriend. We're probably going to get, if that was something that was expressed in the comics, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a dialogue between him and the Crow or something. So nowadays I feel like it could work. Then I feel like it would just come off super cheesy. And I think the movie's, and I don't want to say it's a perfect movie, but I think the movie's perfect just how it is.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think in 1994 it wouldn't be executed the way it needs to be done. And yeah, I think it would have made it kind of like I said, too, they would stray too far from the path that it took. Now when I'm thinking of crows, ravens talking to you, of course my mind now is going to the Sandman, and I'm thinking of Patton Oswalt talking to Brandon Lee. I don't know. It doesn't fit for me. So I don't feel like that would have been right. And I had said this to you earlier. I understood that the Crow was showing him where these people were, and they were connected in that way because he happened to be everywhere where that Crow was. So to me, they were all already tethered in that way. So
And then as far as the reboot, and this is the last question before I kick it back over to our lovely host. I mean, is this something that we're looking forward to? Do you think it should have been left where it is? I mean, my point is, I think that the movie shouldn't be touched. It should be left, where it was, something to go back to and look back on at the legacy of Brandon Lee without trying to, undermine that, change it, because God forbid you come out with a reboot that's terrible. And then that's what's remembered of the Crow in total. But where are you guys' thoughts on this?
I'm usually against remakes and reboots in general. There's very few that have happened. There are some, but there's very few that have happened that I'm like, wow, this was really good. More times than not, I'm like, wow, that should never even been made. Because there's nothing wrong with the original. So when if because they've tried this a couple times and it just never got off the ground. So if this new one actually comes to fruition, will I watch it? Sure. But I don't think it's necessary. But maybe it'll blow me away. Maybe it'll be like, wow, this is what they were trying to do back then, but they did it fantastic. It depends on who. Do they have a director? Have they said?
it's going between, like, I think it just as of 22 hours ago, something like that, landed at a new production company, and
Okay.
they supposedly secured Bill Skarsgård as the main character.
And I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean, maybe. I mean, I just don't know. There's a lot of unknown. So, will I watch it? Yes. Do I think it's needed? No.
I think now in 2022, this being almost 30 years later, there's a lot of possibilities and new things that you can do. Obviously, of course, graphics and what have you have come a long way. And I've said this before in numerous episodes. You kind of taint something, or you ruin the original allure or whatever of certain movies if you go beyond the first one, because certain things are perfect the way they are. You should not mess with them. You should not do something because you're diving into more stuff where, I don't know, it gets tricky. Like Dan started reading this new Long Live the Pumpkin Queen, which is, it's part of the Nightmare Before Christmas universe. So this was this is canon, supposedly by Disney, by Tim Burton, by whatever, but he's reading this, and there's some things that, like, it kind of ruins the magic that you feel from an original movie. I'm not really, I mean, we know Bill Skarsgård obviously has the acting ability to be able to bring different characters to life. Do I like him as a cast choice? I don't really think so. I don't really think so. No. I really, really loved Brandon Lee in this. And it would be heartbreaking to see them try to attempt to do this again and ruin what was so what is. And I don't think they should. Personally, I don't think they should. I feel like it's kind of like a money grab at this point. If this thing is such a cult classic, you're going to bring in obviously older fans and new people. I feel like it's not necessary. I don't know. That's just my opinion. You know what they say about opinions. Anyway, do you have anything else to say about that, or no?
I think just in truth, it's the movie, looking back on it, to me is not old enough to have forgotten, and there's really not a lot you're going to get out of a reboot
Yeah.
Of the series. I think you could have based it as a sequel type, changing characters, and still had a good effect for a movie. I don't think you need to change up the cast and rebuild the Crow, Eric Draven. I mean, what it is what it will always be. And to try to, have somebody fill those shoes, I don't see it. But I've been proven wrong before, and that's a wonderful thing about film. Like Matt said, sometimes you do have reboots or sequels that just kind of blow your mind out of the water. Other times, most often, you are disappointed. I'm hoping that's not one of these, and if it's executed well.
I'll give you an example, not to cut you off, but just because it's Halloween season almost, and I'm very excited. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The original Texas Chainsaw movie is a classic. I love that movie. In my opinion, the 2003 remake with Jessica Biel and R. Lee Ermey is far and above the better film. It's scary. I watch it every year, and it still frightens me. It's a great thing to look at if you want to see how you do a remake correctly. You take the basis, and I've always said this, every remake that I've enjoyed has done this formula, and this is the formula that I think works. You take the idea of the thing, right? And you tell your own thing. So don't give me Eric Draven or whatever his name is and this whole story again. I don't want a shot for shot, word for word remake. Give me an idea, give me a whole new character, give me new things, and then just call it The Crow. And I will probably enjoy that better than if you give me Eric Draven and Shelley and Sarah and all these other characters, because I already have that movie. I don't need another movie like this. The same thing with the Disney Jungle Book that came out a few years ago. I thought that was really well done, and because it was different from the cartoon. Whereas The Lion King, I thought was terrible because I love The Lion King, and they did a shot for shot remake, and it wasn't needed. I have The Lion King. I love The Lion King. I don't need another Lion King. So that's what I think works with remakes and sequels and reboots. Give me something, give me the formula, but something new with it. Don't give me the same story over and over again.
Did we go see The Quiet Place 2 with you, Matt?
I don't believe so.
Oh, okay. But we've all seen that movie, right?
Yes.
I think, and when I'm thinking about sequels, to me, as of like recently, within the past few years, that was an excellent sequel. And like you said, they're giving us something. They tweaked it up a little bit. It's not the same exact thing, but they give you new characters, they give you a new backstory, and they put their own spin on it. And I think that was wonderfully done. I think that was a fantastic sequel to the first one, if not better. than
Yeah.
the first one. And I think you're right. And yeah, I mean, if they could do something different, it would work. But
The whole piece to this too is, regardless of what franchise it is, you need to figure out when you're going to stop, and you also need to know who your audience is.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to appeal to people who have been with the franchise for decades versus trying to bring in, new people, the current generation, like the formula doesn't. I mean, we saw it with Jurassic World.
yes.
More specifically, this is the opposite direction.
Yes,
Like, I think
yes.
that they tried to pander to both the old fans and the new fans, and you've got something that honestly only
It's like a
children
pile of
seem
crap,
to enjoy.
honestly.
And it's sad because I really love the characters, how they were built. Like you said, it leaves you with a sad taste, even though the story ended up better for some of the characters. Just the movie itself was just not
Yeah.
clear.
So sequels, in our opinion, don't freaking do them.
Don't do it.
Don't do them. Anyway, that wraps up our review of it. So I think the general consensus was we can picture ourselves watching this again, which is great. I mean, I love when we all agree because that's wonderful. Anyway, so we're going to segue into our next pick for next week. Last week, if you tuned in, we spin a wheel and it lands on a category, and then that category we each pick a week and we pick a movie. So are we going in alphabetical order now, or are we
We're doing
starting
you.
with?
What do we? Oh,
You're picking the category.
It doesn't matter. I already picked, the category has already been picked, but
Right.
if we want to start whoever spun it, I'd be cool with that.
I have a pick, but if you want to go alphabetical, that's okay too. I'm okay. I've just
I don't
prepared.
really have to go alphabetical.
It's whatever you
it's-
guys want to do.
All right. So since I'm the host, Matt, since you were a lovely person who spun last week and picked the category of Best Director, he is going to pick the movie for next week, and he is about to tell you right about now.
Okay, guys. So I struggled with this because not with who my favorite director was, but what film to show. And I could have went several ways with this. I also looked at what was streaming and what's not. So obviously, Kevin Smith is my choice. I figured if there was ever an opportunity to bring his presence onto the show, this would be the category. I mean, there's other directors that I love: Tim Burton, Christopher Nolan. Maybe some of those will get mentioned by you guys. I don't know. But as far as Kevin Smith goes, he's known for Clerks. He's got Clerks 3. He's still living off that legacy. Clerks 3 is coming out in theaters anytime now as we're recording this. So what did I want to show you guys? What did I want the Picture This crew to watch? And again, it really came down to, gosh, I'm still torn between the two. Like, I'm not sure which one I'm going to say, even at this moment. There's two films that I really enjoy that I think are his finest work, and one of them is his normal. It's canon with everything else that he does. It's in his world, and the other is not. One of them is streaming free if you have the app, and one of them is not. So I don't know.
I'm so curious right now. I have like two ideas right in my brain.
So I'm going to go with the one that's streaming, only to make it more accessible. Even though Dan and Cayla, I could give it to you guys either way. It didn't matter. But I think just because of the timing with Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck getting back together, they are both in this movie. However, Jennifer Lopez is very small.
I know it. I knew it.
Very, very small part in this movie, but she is in it. I'm going to go with Kevin Smith's Jersey Girl.
I knew it. I told Dan. I said he's going to pick it.
It was between that or Chasing Amy, and Chasing Amy is a great movie as well. But I think Jersey Girl probably has a little bit more heart, and it's, like I said, it's streaming on Stars, so it's accessible, and it just the timing with J-Lo and Ben
Okay, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you. So literally we were talking this morning and we're like talking about like, oh, Matt's gonna pick like Kevin Smith, obviously. And I was like, okay. I was like, I have a few like ideas. And I was like, oh my God, if he picks Jersey Girl, I'm gonna freaking go crazy because I love Ben Affleck in this freaking movie and it is wonderful. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm not gonna be like for next week.
So
I knew
I
you were
guess
gonna
I'm
pick
going to be
this.
the Debbie Downer in the group.
Well, I know
because-
you. I know you don't like Ben Affleck, but
No, please.
Kevin Smith discovered Ben Affleck, so you're getting early Affleck, although not as early as if I'd gone because he's also in Chasing Amy
Mallrats.
and Mallrats.
Yes. Did Kevin Smith do Mallrats?
Yes,
Dude, I love Mallrats.
It's the
Mallrats
same-
is
he's got the
awesome.
same kind of style as the rest. So that's kind of
but Jersey Girl is actually not that style. Like you watch Mallrats, you watch
It's
Chasing Amy, you can
so
say,
good.
okay, you're like, okay, I can see where
You're gonna
those
like it.
were
You're
made
gonna-
by the same guy. Whereas if you watch Jersey Girl, it almost doesn't feel like a Kevin Smith movie. He's not in it. Usually he's in it being Silent Bob and have all of his films. This is not a Jay and Silent Bob movie. This is a Kevin Smith from the heart movie.
Yeah.
And I think it will, I hope you like it.
Yes. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. Very cool. Well, I'm actually obviously very excited. I love Ben Affleck. Dan is not a very big fan of Ben Affleck. If
Sorry,
you've watched it before, he is. But anyway, this is going to be so good. I was so looking forward to it because I was like, Ben Affleck. Okay. Anyway, so Matt picked
Jersey Girl.
Jersey Girl.
Yes.
So next week we will roll out, and I guess next week I will pick. And
No, Dan picked.
oh, Dan will pick. Okay.
Okay. Not sure how that order, but okay.
Okay. Dan can pick. Okay. I'm cool with it.
We're just
Anyway,
gonna throw
okay.
we're just gonna throw the order out the window
Yeah,
at this point.
we're gonna do whatever.
We're just gonna do what
pick
we
it.
want.
Yeah, we're gonna pick it and it's like, yeah. Anyway, so that is gonna be our pick for next week. Really looking forward to that. That is a really big change of pace for us in this season already. Yeah, so I don't know, I'm a little don't have the words right now. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching, our videos. We are on Instagram, we are on YouTube, we are on Facebook, and we are all under Picture This Film Reviews. Our YouTube account used to be Studio 29, but it has transitioned to Picture This Film Reviews. So you can find our link on Instagram. You can find our link on Facebook as well. We try to post there twice a week to let you guys know about our videos, including our bonus video, which if you are watching this first, please check that out as well. They kind of go hand in hand a little bit. And subscribe, please, and turn on the notifications. We've been racking up some subscribers on YouTube, so thank you to all of you who are on there watching our videos. I don't know, it is a lot because we just started this as something as, Dan and Matt being cousins, and we just started it because we like movies. We love movies. And we wanted to just branch out and really just review things that some of us haven't seen or we have seen and share them with others. And I think that's what we get the most enjoyment out of is really, finding things that we never would have watched before. So I'm just going to wrap it up. If anybody else has anything else they want to add, no? Okay. I actually really enjoyed this superhero category. Watch some things, The Shadow, that was excellent. Love The Shadow. We'll watch that again. We actually went to a toy store this past week and saw The Shadow toys. And I was like, Dan, oh my God, how
The same ones that I used to have.
It was crazy. So when you see things, just they start representing in your life, you see little things. So it's just wonderful. And I'm not trying to punch you, but anyway, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, everybody. I get so jittery.
She's just super excited about Jersey Girl.
Oh yeah. Anyway, again, thank you for tuning in. We always end this little video with swinging it over to Matt, who wraps it up, and I will head it over to Matt. But thank you guys very much.
Everybody have a great week. See you on Monday, and of course, love one another.
Bye.
See you guys.